All right, hi everyone. Welcome to our next episode on Litera TV. As you can see from the screen here, we're starting season 3, as we like to refer it, on adoption that matters, with our first episode of talking about the importance of CLE to lawyer-facing tech adoption. So I'm joined here with my esteemed colleague Sherry Kappel. Hi, Sherry.
Hello, Kate. How are you today?
That's good. We haven't been on together in a while, so I'm so excited to be back here with you.
I am too. I have very much missed this conversation with our audience. So thanks for having me back.
Of course. I think we'll start just by reintroducing ourselves, since it has been a while. So I'm Kate Jasaitis. I'm Director of Adoption here at Litera. So of course this conversation is very near and dear to my heart, getting to speak to y'all about adoption and how we approach it, and the different things that we do to help you achieve value of our products within your firm. And Sherry, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So my name is Sherry Kappel. I'm an evangelist here at Litera. I have worked with our products since, well, maybe even before some of them were invented. And they were a gleam in our eye, that's right. And I am so thrilled to see how Litera has built this particular program to assist our customers in ensuring effective tech adoption of our products and realizing the value. I think this is one of the challenges, Kate, I'm sure that we hear all the time, is that lawyers adopting technology is a challenging thing to achieve. And I think that we both are of the opinion that what we've got to do is to create the right content, yes, but more importantly, the right context, correct?
Yes.
And so that's what we're going to talk about today, a context that's very near and dear to the lawyer's heart. I do want to basically show something here that before we kind of get into our chat, Kate, and that is at Litera, there is a process, a workflow for achieving adoption. And we want to make certain to let everyone know what that process is. And then Kate, maybe you can even comment on a few of the specifics about them. But when we embark with you all in adoption of our technologies, what we do is we have buckets, gates, if you will. At the launch, we take care of working with you, not just to get the products installed. That's an important given. But in addition to that, we help you launch your, destined champions network. And so that's kind of like, our well-rounded approach for launching. We then, of course, couple that with learning, and that takes many forms, as you'll learn working with our adoption team. We also back it all up with data. And then, of course, we monitor the adoption activities. So it isn't done in that last square, right? It's more beginning, a continuum.
Yeah, I think that's the point that, yeah, I would hit home, is just that the way that this graphic is designed is it's an infinitum, right? It repeats itself, and adoption isn't something that just happens at one point in time. It's a continual effort. It's continual focus to reinforce what people have learned, to continue to drive that awareness and desire to want to use these products. Every time there's an update or an upgrade to technology, you're essentially doing this process all over again, right? You're relaunching it. Look what's new and different. Learn about the new and different, measure against that, and then, repeat. So that's really why we came up with this strategy the way that we did, because it's a continual process when you think about adoption.
I think if we were to add, maybe something to this graphic, Kate, I think it would be a continuum line which says engagement. At every point in this process, we engage with you, whether that is with assets and materials, whether that is with videos, whether that is with, monitoring your progress, helping you through, particular challenges. We even have launched a kind of user experience group that will let you bring the technology forward so it has even additional value. So that conversation is continuing. And the other part of it is We're engaging with you to improve the product and bring more value. And so that's to Kate, your point about the updates. We add functionality really every quarter, and we want to engage with you and have you recognize and anticipate that. But more importantly, we want to gather the requirements from you as well. And so again, it's adoption that matters, to say the least. Every Friday on Litera TV, we have these episodes. So tune in the future and even look at some of our past episodes to talk through this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this because we do have a kind of top 10. I think, Kate, where I wanted to go in our conversation today is we're talking today about continuing legal education and the means by which we use that as one of the many ways to engage the lawyers in becoming the firm's champions. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how we formed that and what some of the assets of Litera are that help a firm be successful. And by the way, I have even one of the checklists ready to show. So when you're ready, okay?
I think anybody that's worked within a law firm knows how important and valuable CLE, continuing legal education, is for our lawyers. Every state has their own requirements and guidelines for which, these lawyers need to abide by in terms of getting their credits. But generally speaking, lawyers have to attain a certain amount of CLE credit hours within a certain period of time. It's just something they have to do to maintain their license. And those are broken up into different categories. We have our ethics focus. We have good practical guidance focus to be better practicing lawyers. But as of late, there's a technology focus. And many states like Florida and some others, I believe North Carolina, have actually formalized that you must get so many hours of technology CLE credit in order to continue to maintain your bar license. So even the ABA has recognized and has a model rule on this, that technology has now evolved so much in the legal field that it's now considered a requirement that you become knowledgeable on how to leverage it in the practice of law. And so by seeing this and knowing that this is something that they have to get, we saw an opportunity to build a program that was not only focused on their practice areas and how they practice, but incorporating that technology piece as well. So you'll show the checklist, but basically to break it down, the first part of our CLE, generally CLEs are about an hour to an hour and a half long. We really built ours from the ground up. So we wanted to focus on, things that lawyers are concerned about. So the first part of our CLE literally focuses on all the risks involved in drafting and reviewing and proofreading and basically working with documents. What are all those pitfalls, right? So, just think with reuse. I used to be a paralegal. I remember all the time. It was like, hey, go pull up that form from so-and-so's matter and use that. And then it's like, okay, me as a human, go through, find, replace, try to replace all of the client matter data, make sure I'm pulling out and putting, and it still happens today. What are the risks associated with doing that are abound. You and I both know that. You could have possibly exposed client matter data that doesn't belong. You could have left the wrong clause in there when it doesn't belong. So how do we help mitigate that risk? Well, the firm is invested in Clause Companion. It can help anonymize that document for you. Same thing with, proofreading. How many lawyers sit up late at night or whatever time of the day and try to proofread these documents? And the errors that you're prone just from human eye, not being able to catch every mistake, so there's a risk in that too. And again, how do we mitigate that risk? Well, we can do it through Contract Companion with analyzing, picking up on where you didn't cross-reference something or you left out a defined term, and so we really elevate and remind lawyers, hey, look, these are the risks you face when you draft your documents, not as if they don't already know, but it's just kind of bringing it to the forefront. And then the second part of it is, like I said, here's how we can help you mitigate this. Your firm has already invested in technology that can help you with that. It can make you more efficient. It can get you through that proofreading process, so much faster than you just sitting there with your naked eye trying to pick up on things. And then we show them how the technology works and how it fits into their workflow. And it really hits home for the lawyer, the why. that's the biggest part of change management and getting a lawyer to adopt, in my opinion, is the why, answering that why question for them. I mean, these days they're getting so much technology thrown at them, right? I mean, they're probably hearing something new every other week about technology that their firm has. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to get their legal work done. And so we need to have that opportunity to explain to them, why do I care about this? Why do I want to use this? What's in it for me? What does it do for me? And that's where this CLE programming really comes in, because we get to tell them what it does for them, particularly from a risk and mitigating that risk standpoint. And it's, also they're getting their CLE credits. And the great thing about our program is because we talk so much about risks, we qualify, generally speaking, for that ethics credit, which is really hard to get from a CLE standpoint.
And I think too, there's a number of awarenesses I'd also like to raise with our audience, which is that on Litera's staff as a whole, we have, a dozen lawyers, folks who have practiced in various jurisdictions, and they augment our CLE credit approaches by not only delivering the why in our CLE sessions, but also advising us on what aspects of the technology are expressed not in a click here, do this manner, but rather here's the value this brings and the problem this solves. And by doing that, I feel like we have a context, as I announced at the beginning, that has our CLE credit courses or learning, has that, it elevates tremendously on its purpose and intent for the lawyers. And that, I think, is a huge, huge benefit. Not only that lawyer's involvement from, the creation of the course, but rather even the presentation of it allows us to work with your professional development team at the firm so that you can go ahead and get the credits, because I know in certain jurisdictions, New York is the one that always comes to mind, those aspects do need to be delivered by a member of the bar.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you hit home. Another great aspect of our program is that we do generally all of the heavy lifting, right? So we have the person that can deliver it. We have accredited lawyers, to your point, that have practiced, that can provide that value, that insight, that relatable moment that, like, hey, I was here. I remember doing these things. This is why this stuff is so great to use. But we also do all the other down and dirty work that often comes along with CLE that's not fun. Meeting the checklist requirements, really just partnering with you. And we have the content ready to go. We have assets to deliver after the CLE. We've gone through and done the checklist homework and break down the times that you need to report to the board of how long we were in session versus what was Q&A versus what was covered. So feedback from the firms that we've done this for, and Sherry, I think you could highlight there as well, because you have been one of our CLE delivery extraordinary people, is that's been the biggest benefit, is that we do most of the heavy lifting.
We do the heavy lifting. And Kate, to your point, I'm not certain always that folks realize the requirements of a CLE. And I'm not talking, the credits requirements awarded by the ABA, but rather how putting one of these things together is a significant task. And that heavy lifting that you speak of, that was exactly, Kate, why I have available here this checklist. This is the awesome reading view of Word. Don't you love it? Anyway, this is our checklist, and this is how we help you understand all the things that need to be set up, and the pieces that, it's a kind of questionnaire, a checklist of things that we can do for you. For example, we provide you with PowerPoint slides and the updated bios for the presenters, which are requirements for earning the CLE credit. If those things are not submitted properly, then the credit can't be earned. So we take a lot of care of the back, the backstage view of all of this and getting that handed to you. We provide internal marketing materials, so making sure that we let the lawyers know exactly what they're going to learn and what the benefit and the credits they'll earn are. We work with your coordinator inside the firm to achieve this. And so, you know, these are just some of the things that we have assets and processes to help you work through. Is there anything on this, Kate, that you wanted to feature?
I think, yeah, just pointing out that marketing material, as I think that's an area that a lot of our customers and firms struggle with in general, is bringing about that awareness, that desire of anything, not just technology, but think events like these. And so we've done the heavy lifting there and have marketing copy already drafted that's literally cut and paste. I mean, of course, they can add to it or adjust it however they see fit, but it's literally cut and paste that you know, both an initial email and then a follow-up one. And then we even have more after the CLE is delivered, you know, to reinforce what they learned, but to also anybody that didn't get a chance to attend, you know, market that recording if the firm recorded the CLE and maybe is saving it for, you know, later date consumption, etc. You know, really hitting home the value of what this programming provides.
And Kate, you know, you asked about my experiences in doing this. There are two takeaways I have. One is that in one experience, there were 72 lawyers registered to attend the CLE. And of course, when you do the math, right, what's the percentage of the people who will actually turn up? For a CLE credit course, we had 68 lawyers turn up. And so the point is that this is already a learning path, a learning journey they are on. And as a consequence, by connecting these two things, not only do you get the value out of the tool, you're really giving the lawyers something as well. So they come to the session for exactly that reason. The second thing I want to point out is that one thing that we have been inclusive to doing is also including the technology user experience folks, right? Those trainers and or support people that might be involved in supporting the technology, because then they get to sit in on the context. It's something that's known and they recognize now how the tool should be positioned and the why of it. So it's really adding a dimension to their understanding of the application, you know, knowing it in the way the lawyers need to know it as well. So I just feel like we've taken a very holistic view to that, and I'm just so privileged to be a part. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. I think that's a great point to hit home, is that user experience, that trainer that's responsible for, you know, training the lawyers on this, or anybody that might be, you know, managing these solutions, to really understand that value that it provides so they can position it, you know, the right way going forward, instead of just, oh, you click here and then you click here and then you click here. Okay, well, that's good. Thank you for that information. But again, what does that mean to me? Like, why would I want to click here, and when would I want to click here?
And when do I use which tool? I also loved something else that happened in that, because it was, Kate, whatever you just said, the trigger is this. In that very session of those 68 lawyers, I can assure you, they were not all from the same practice area, right? No. So the challenge per se to them was, well, how do I apply this for my practice area? Because what you've shown might be for some other practice area. And the fact that we got to drive those questions out following the session allowed people to get exactly precisely what they needed to know. And we were able to show them how very simply they can adapt the tool for their practice area. And that was, you know, that was just a huge light bulb for everybody, is that, you know, it has breadth for multiple ways that people practice. So that was pretty cool. I am going to, Kate, do something we don't usually do with the top 10, and that's that I'm going to call them all out at once. And so the top 10 is essentially a staple of our Litera Adoption TV, Adoption That Matters. And I called them all out for a lot of reasons, Kate. I think that we're going to go through these, but I don't think we necessarily have to go through them in order. Not only that, when they're all on the screen, it emphasizes, we're generally doing this like Letterman style, right? We get to one and that's the most important. I think CLE is so different. I think the whole of CLE is important. And the top 10 in concert is the importance. It's not just any one benefit. So I thought we might change it up a bit and talk about all 10 of them together, if you're good with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, we've already said that CLE is a requirement of your lawyer. So there's no extra event they have to turn up to. And so when they're a timekeeper, this is a really huge asset. I would love to tell you that, we've hosted lunches and things like that. And that, we can still do aspects of that, but obviously with the work from home moment, it's not as possible as it once was, but we do provide some networking time. So hopefully that'll help you all, again, get the group together.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the tech teams was another thing that I mentioned, is that your tech teams truly and honestly begin to understand the lawyer's workflow and learn that in the same experience that the lawyers are seeing the inverse, how the tech associates to that, right? Because usually it's the tech teams are learning the tech and then they can't connect it to the lawyer's workflow. But I just love how we're mixing that up. So Kate, do you want to take the item 8? You were already mentioning some of this.
Yeah, I can't evangelize this enough. The CLE really gives them the opportunity to recognize the risks in the drafting life cycle and how to mitigate those risks. And that speaks to their language. When you start talking about risk and mitigating risk, that's how they talk. That's how they think. And that's why this is so important that we have framed this in that mindset. And then hitting home that now that we've identified those things, we now can show you technology that you have today to help you, prevent these kinds of things from happening, to make that drafting life cycle more efficient, quicker, faster. Like, who wants to sit up for 3 hours at night going through a big long document looking for errors? No one. And so it not only shows the risks and how to mitigate them, but it speaks to efficiency. It's giving them back that time to spend on higher value activities as a lawyer than proofreading and fixing documents. And so I think that's a really important thing to highlight here is, again, answering that why. Why do I care about this? Well, here's why.
Right. I think we also show this with content that happens to be germane and kind of general, but the lawyers get to speak with, not just in our sessions, the technology experts, but the lawyers also get to speak with one another or to the lawyer that we have delivering, again, the context about the tool. And we use a lot of anecdotes. Have you ever had the challenge when XYZ has happened? Well, here's how this tool helps you. And so we do constantly do that. But again, the messaging is coming from the lawyer, and that's great. I also think, Kate, you emphasize the tech competency requirements, or, well, some states are making it more specific than other states are, but right now, generally, lawyers are expected to increase their competencies for tech. It's a requirement because if they're not being efficient, if they're not being effective, and if they aren't using tools to aid in the minimization of risks and the delivery of work product, then it creates certainly not the client experience that anyone wants. And so this has a way of not only increasing tech adoption of the tools we might be showcasing, but creating a context that gives you an idea of what it should all look like, right? Mm-hmm. And so it increases in general the tech competency that you have across the firm.
I think it also increases this sense of urgency to want to get their hands on it too. And I think you have a perfect experience for that in that example that you shared. Out of those 62 lawyers or however many showed up for that one CLE, how many of them left raising their hand saying, I want this. I need this. Why isn't this already, why did I not know about this?
I think it was a brilliant stroke. We actually had the help desk manager, right? We had the help desk manager in the CLE credit class. And so what was amazing is that he was sort of sitting there and his phone was blowing up because all of the lawyers in the room are like, get it on my machine right now, or where can I find it, or how do I download it? And that was, honestly, it was just so rewarding to all of the tech team at the firm because they got tremendous engagement. And so that was really cool. You know, as Kate mentioned earlier, the lawyers, you know, they want to attend the CLE. And again, my statistics, 68 out of 72 turned up, they do attend the CLE. So it's a wonderful dimension that we're able to provide you. Kate, what is the, because this is a question I get all the time, what's the charge for an organization to take on the CLE credit course?
This is the best part, there is none. This is a part of our value-added service we provide as an adoption team at Litera. This is our focus. This is our sweet spot. And so this is something that we provide free of charge to our law firms that want to engage with us, you know, to develop this type of program for their firm.
So the next one about the learning from the industry experts, what I want to share is that in a number of cases, Kate, that we have coming up where we're delivering CLEs, we have strategically set up a follow-on course for the tech adoption teams, for the user experience group. And the reason we've done that is so that they can see the context we've built, and then they can ask all their application level questions. So we don't just teach the lawyers, we teach that team how to support them. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I feel like that dimension is, you know, it's something that we realized by that gentleman who was sitting there with his phone blowing up, right? It was just like such a logical thing we needed to do. You know, help them then take it on. And so I think the benefit is we ended up with the tech team also becoming champions, right? Because honestly, if they're not comfortable, they can't be champions. So,
right. Yeah.
You want to take the last two?
Okay, yeah. Lawyers can earn an ethics credit for this. Again, generally speaking, every state's different in terms of what their ethics requirements are for a CLE to meet that, to qualify that. But generally speaking, the majority of our CLEs do. And that's a big win for the lawyers because it is so difficult to get that credit in a CLE perspective. And so that's a big value add. Again, it's how we structured our curriculum to really be focused on that, the risk of exposure. You know, Sherry, you were talking about that in terms of tech competencies. By learning these tech competencies and marrying them with the risks associated, it helps that overall risk of exposure that firms face in the drafting life cycle just decrease immensely. So it's not just about enhancing the client experience, it's about making sure that the firms are doing their due diligence to ensure they're providing the best practical ways in doing this without putting the client at risk or the firm at risk. So I think last but not least is the lawyers become your tech champions, and we can't shout this through the rooftops enough. Lawyers listen to lawyers, and the more that you can get them to be proud of the technology that you have, want to use the technology that you have, they will scream it from the mountaintops, and they will tell their fellow colleague, hey, man, can you believe this contract companion thing? I can't believe the amount of time it saved me. Are you using it? If not, you should.
And I think this Tech Champion program, you know, this Tech Champion network, I think, Kate, you and I are going to come back to this station in another episode and talk even more about that. But I completely agree with you. You know, they're the ones using the tools, they're the ones gaining the benefits, and they're the ones who are going to shout it from the rooftops and help you with tech adoption. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We'll be back here next week, same time, same station, and you can rewind this if you want from Litera TV. Kate, thanks.
Bye, Sherry. Thanks.
Bye.